In this video, we will take a look at the cloner generator. The cloner generator is used to clone objects in so many ways. You can clone it in a linear way, in a grid format, honeycomb, or you can even clone it objects on the surface of another object. When it comes to the object palette, the cloner generator is located here, this one. When you click and hold, it will reveal other MoGraph generators. Okay, so let's create the cloner generator. And as I said, cloner generator is used to clone objects. Okay, we have types of mode you can clone the objects to. But when you come to the object palette, the attribute manager under the object tab here, you have the mode. By default, you have the grid mode. We also have linear, radial, honeycomb. Okay, and then we have objects. What the object does is you clone the object on the surface or the vertex of another object. Okay, let's create a cube. Okay, and in order to clone the cube, you make it a child of the cloner. So when you put it inside the cloner, you see the cube has been cloned. The spaces between them is so small, that's why you can't see the individual clones. But with the cloner selected, when you come down here where we have the count, okay, the count, this is the how many times you will clone the axis. You have the X, Y, and the Z. So right now we are cloning 3 on the X axis. We have 1 on the Y axis. That's why we have only 1 layer. If you increase it, you see we have another layer. And then let's make all 3. Okay, and then the size is the spaces between them. And if you look at the cube, the size of a cube is 200 centimeters on all sides, which is a full square. Okay, so if you want to have spaces between them, we shouldn't make the size the same as the size of the cube. Okay, so we can increase the size a little bit, maybe like this. You see now we have in the spaces between them. So let's do like that on all the axes. Let's make it like 220 on all, so that it will be uniform. Okay, so now you see we have the cubes cloned. Okay, this is the grid mode. The grid mode clones your objects in a grid format. Okay, and by default the grid is a cubic grid. Okay, you have other forms here. You see you have the cubic, which is the default. You can select the sphere, which clones it. Each clones the grid in a spherical form. And then we have the cylinder, which also does it in a cylindrical form. And we have objects where you clone it using the form of an object. Okay, let's go back to the cubic form. Okay. And then we have the other type, which is the linear. What it does is it creates it in a straight line, in a straight linear form. You can choose the axis that you want to create on it. Right here it's on the y-axis. You see that we have 50 centimeters on the y-axis, so it's cloning it on the y-axis. Okay, if you want to have the space, you have to increase it. Remember, our cube is 200 centimeters, so if we make it 220, you see that we have the spaces. Okay, and then you have the count. When you choose the linear, we have the count. This is where you can increase the number of clones that you want. Okay, and we have what we call the offset. The offset is we have the clone start, and wherever you clone to, we have the clone end. The offset will actually push the start and the end above, like past those clone start and clone end. Okay, so when I push it, you see we have the clone start here, but the objects that are being cloned are being pushed up. Okay, that is what the offset does. Okay, let's put it back to 0. And then we have the radial. The radial clone, it does the same thing as how the array was doing. See, it clones it in a radial way, like this. Okay, so that is what the radial clone is for. And then we have the honeycomb. Okay, it's the same as the grid comb, but this one clones it on one axis. The honeycomb layout or the honeycomb mode is like a net form. You see where we have, you see the cube will come. This is the cube, the first clone, and then the next clone will offset it so that this is not straight with the next one, and the next one too will offset it, so it creates this pattern. Okay, this pattern look, that's what we call it, the honeycomb. Okay, and then we have the object. Because we don't have any objects that we want to clone onto, it won't come. So let's create another object. Let's create a sphere. Let's make it really big. because the cubes are big, okay, like this. And then with the cloner selected, okay, because when we choose object, there's a space here we have to put the object, so we drag this sphere to the object path, and now you see that the clones are being cloned on the object. Okay, you can increase the count, okay, and by default it clones on the surface, which is great. You can choose other options, but it makes your computer a little bit slow, especially when you choose the vertex. When you choose the vertex actually means the points. Okay, so we clone it on each point of your sphere, and then if your sphere has more subdivision surface, like a more segment, it will take a really longer time to clone them. So most of the time the vertex is not advisable to clone it on the vertex. You use the surface, okay, like this, to clone it. And then we have something we call effectors. Okay, effectors are used to effect the individual clones. Okay, so when you come down here, this is where we have the effectors. Okay, when you click and hold, it will reveal all the effectors that you can create. Right now the cubes are there, we want to randomize them, so let's create a random effector. Is the random effector, okay. This cloner, because I had this cloner selected, the random effector will be added onto the effectors tab of the cloner. Okay, and what a random does is that, let's go to select the random and go to the parameters. Okay, here what it does is that it uses the parameters you assign here to either change the movement or the position of the cloners. Okay, right now we have it affecting the position. If you don't want it, you uncheck it, you go back to the normal. If you want it to affect the rotation, okay, when you select it and you rotate it, it will randomly rotate the cloners. Okay, every single one, it will rotate them into a different rotation form. We use this to create what we call differences, or subtle differences between cloners, so that it's not uniform. Okay, and then we also have the scale. What the scale does is it will actually scale the object randomly. It will randomly scale all the cloners. Okay, so with this you have to change the X and Y and Z, but if you choose the uniform scale, it will scale all the axes. So let's just increase it. Okay, so something like this. And you see that we have random scaling. Some of the cubes are being scaled big and some of them are being scaled small. Okay, so that is what the random effector does. It actually randomizes the objects with the position, scale, and rotation. So you can set those parameters and then let it work on it. And then we have fills. Fills are used on effectors to create a region where the effector works. Okay, so in order to demonstrate that, let's create a little bit of project, just a small motion graphics project that we can use the effectors on. Okay, so let's delete all of this. Okay, and then let's create the sphere. Let's create a sphere, and I want this sphere. Come to the object tab here inside the attribute manager. I'll choose the type of sphere that I want. I want hemisphere because I want the half of it. Okay, so this is the hemisphere. This is what we have. This is what I wanted. And then let's change the subdivision to maybe 36 to have a smooth hemisphere. Okay, now we need to fill the hole because right now you see there's a hole inside. I don't want that. Okay, so with the sphere selected, I'll make it editable. Okay, so now I have this object which I can actually create other polygons to fill the surface. So I'll go to the vertex mode, which is the point mode. And you see we have a right click and there's a tool called close polygon hole. Okay, close polygon hole. So with that selected, if I select the points at the top and I click, it will close that hole. You create a polygon to create to close the whole of the sphere. Okay, let's go back to the object mode. Now I have a sphere, hemisphere that is not hollow. It has actually something on this. Okay, now I need to clone this. Okay, but before I clone this, let's assign some material so that we will see what we are dealing with. Okay, so in order to bring up the material palette, this is the material manager icon here. You click, the palette will come, and then you click this plus. Okay, you create new material. Okay, you call it the outside. Okay, you create a new material and call it the, let's just call it the inside. It's not an inside actually. I just want to have the outer side a different color, and then this field a different color. Okay, and in order to assign different materials or multiple materials on the same object, you need to create a selection region. Okay, so that we know that this is where I want to assign this material. Okay, so with the sphere selected, we go back to the face mode here, the polygon mode, which is also known as the face mode. Okay, we take the live selection tool, and then we select the face that we filled, this one, only this one. Okay, we go to select, and then we come here and go to store selection. In previous Cinema 4D versions, it's called save selection. Okay, so it's the same thing. So I click store selection. It will create a selection tag right here, and when it's selected, the name I can change it. So I'll call it the inside. Okay, so we have this selection, which is at the top here. So we go back to the object mode. Okay, now with the outside, with the color, I want to have something like let's go like brownish, light brownish thing. I don't want any reflectance on it. This is just for demonstration purpose. Okay, so we have this. I put it on it. It will fill all of it. Okay, now I need to assign this to the top here. Okay, so I change this. I change the color of this. I want red is okay. Yeah, red is okay because you can tell the difference. And I'll also put it on it. Okay, it will fill the whole thing, but I want it to affect only the surface here, this region that we stored. Okay, so when you put it on it with the material selected here, you see that there is this yellow or orangey outline. That means that material is selected. You see, if you select this one is selected, but I want this. So with this selected, I will click and drag this selection tag that we created into the selection portion here, another tag inside the attributes manager here, right here. Okay, so when I do that, I tell my Cinema 4D that this material should only be assigned to this selection that I stored. Okay, so that is it. Yeah, let's hide the material manager because we are done with the materials. We change the move. Okay, so this is what we have. Now let's take the cloner generator. Let's create it. Okay, and make the sphere a child of the cloner. And it clones the hemisphere. Okay, and I don't want it to be touching. So with the cloner selected, come down here. I want to make sure that there's a distance, so maybe 210 on all the axes. 210. Okay. Okay, and I want to clone it on the X and Z axis. I don't want to clone it on the Y axis. Okay, because if I add more clones on the Y axis, it goes up, but I don't want another level of it on the Y axis. I want only one, so I set a 1. But on the X and Z, I want more, so I'll set this to 10, and then the Z also to 10. Okay, so now we have this. We have this clone. So this is basically what a clone does. It clones objects. Okay, now I want to review, like rotate the hemisphere so that it will have the red will be facing up, but I don't want to do it. I want to use like something like when something reaches there, it rotates. This is where the fields come in. Okay, so let's create a planar. Okay, this planar effector. Okay, and remember, because you have the cloner selected, if you create an effector, it will be added to the effector portion of the cloner. Okay, so now we have a planar effector, and I want to come to the parameters, and I want the plane effector to do something. Okay, what I want the planar effector to do, I don't want to affect the position. You see, with the position check, you see the whole thing moves up because we have 100 centimeters in the y-axis. That's not what I want. I don't want the position, I want the rotation. Okay, and I want to rotate it either on the z-axis or on the x-axis. Okay, so let's take the z-axis. I want to rotate it to 180 degrees. Okay, like this. So the planar effector is rotating the cubes, the cloner object which is the spheres. Okay, it's rotating them 180 degrees. Okay, so right now it's uniform, it's rotating everything. Okay, but I want it to rotate it within a section or within a field. Okay, so that is where the fields come in place. So with the planar selected, okay, I come to the fields tab here, okay, and I can create a field. Okay, so these are the fields. Okay, when you click and hold, these are all the fields you can create. Okay, by default you have what we call the linear field. Okay, but I want to create something called a spherical field because I want it to be spherical. Okay, so when I create the spherical field, this is the field here. It's small at the moment, so you can scale it up. So when you look at the spherical field, you see this yellow dot. Okay, this is the outside. Okay, I want to increase it a little bit more. Okay, and this, we see we have another sphere inside. Okay, that is a fall off. Okay, let me change the fall off. Okay, here, this inner offset. Okay, I want it to be something like this, so I kind of have some fall off. Okay, so that it doesn't really goes all the way to the edge of the field. I want to have a fall off. Okay, so that is it. And what this field does is that the planar effector, this plane effector, okay, is creating a field, okay, where the planar effector affects. Okay, so you see right now the planar effector is not affecting all the hemisphere, it's only affecting those that are inside this field. Okay, so what that is what field does. Okay, you can invert this field. So with a planar effector selected, you come here, then you select the spherical field, and then you come to the remapping. Okay, the remapping actually the strength, okay, and the inner offsets like we did. Okay, here this position you can actually invert it. So when you invert it, the planar effector will affect everything outside the field. Okay, so now you see that right now here the red is facing up, but inside the fields you have the hemisphere turning down. Okay, so that is it about fields, and that will be all about the clonal generator. You can actually animate this fields, okay, by keyframing the position. So that will be all for the clonal generator. Now you've known about the effectors and then the fields. In our project section of this course, we will dive more into the effectors and the fields. Thank you, and see you in another video.